Hello and welcome to the Wisden Cricket Weekly Podcast, going daily for the India Test at Edgbaston. We're recording this episode while Surrey are playing a T20 Blast game at the Oval, so if you do hear any appeals or bangers from the Surrey DJ, that's why. Yaz will be at Edgbaston from day 3 onwards. Today was the Rishabh Pant show, in short, and with me, Ben Gardner, to discuss it and everything else that happened is Wisden.com feature editor Taha Hashim. Taha, that was something quite special, wasn't it?
Yeah, special. I'm still kind of processing it, but obviously it's special and yet you expect it because it's Rishabh Pant, and yet you don't expect it because you don't play innings like that every day. But Rishabh Pant has been around in Test cricket for 4 years, and it seems like he'll play an innings like that every few months now, right? Yeah, special. I think the one thing for me was it was almost like you're playing Rishabh Pant bingo at times. He fell over playing the big shot, was totally off balance, but he nailed it. He hits the one-handed six. There's the reverse lap thing he plays. There's a moment where he tries to sweep James Anderson when Anderson's bowling, the perfect outswinger to the lefty. It was Pant. It was just the kind of maddening brilliance of him. And he's just so enjoyable to watch. He's one of the great sights of the Test game right now. Has been for the last 2 or 3 years. Just a special innings, really, and kind of the day that I'm not going to say the word that you're going to say, but the day where England got a bit of
they got pant ball, didn't they?
They got whatever. If you want to say that, go ahead. You can say that. I'm not going to say it.
Well,
but yeah.
But that was the other thing about this innings, is that it almost felt less remarkable and more remarkable because this is what England did to New Zealand all through that series. It was very similar to that day at Headingley when England were not quite as dramatic. 55 for 6 is 98 for 5, I think, but 98 for 5. But you know that Pant and Jadeja, they can lift India out of this, and Pant, if he's going to do it, he's going to do it quickly and rapidly in this case.
Yeah, so I think you kind of nailed what I was kind of thinking there, where it's like, because we've seen this type of cricket for the last few weeks watching this England team. Yes, it's another team now doing it, it's India doing it, but it doesn't feel almost remarkable that we just saw a day's play where a team was going at more than 4.5 runs and over, and so it's, you kind of almost hope where this is just one day of cricket from another side, and it's Pant, so we know he could do this, right? It's not someone who's completely done it out of nowhere, but you think, do we get a sense of a movement in Test cricket where we do see an increase in the run rate? We do see teams play like this. This could be totally out of, this could be not part of a theme or anything like that. It just could be a one-off day where we've seen Rishabh Pant play like Rishabh Pant. No one else was doing it. Jadeja played, sensibly. But that's kind of exciting, right? The prospect of every side in Test cricket trying to play like this, there's something in that, maybe. I don't know. Yeah,
and especially I think because there is a logic to it. Like if you get 5 down, as long as you haven't absolutely massively collapsed the new ball and you're 20 for 5, if you're 100 for 5, you're going to be sort of 25, 30 overs in. And actually at that point, batting, apart from the other team being well on top, should be kind of easier from a technical point of view. So that would be the time to cash in. I think you do see times when a team is maybe 100 for 5, and then they really dig in, and then maybe they get to the second new ball, 180 for 5, 6, and then actually they're all out for 250, and that's actually when they made under par, when actually the best time to bat is the best time to bat. It doesn't matter if you're, 1 down or 5 down. Yeah. There is a sort of a logic in that as well. And I think you're right as well in terms of how this felt compared to, say, that Headingley Test when England, they didn't get a big first innings lead, but it felt like they were way ahead in the game just because of how far New Zealand had been ahead at 55 for 6. And in this game, India are 338 for 7 at stumps. You'd say that's kind of about evens on a sort of a normal Test match day's play, albeit they came with, about an hour lost to rain, which makes it more ridiculous. But England aren't out of this by any means, despite Pant having played one of the great innings, really.
No, they're not. And that's because of what we've seen in the last few weeks, where you think, okay, anything feels possible. And you just know that England are going to come out and they're going to play the way they played for the last few weeks, and they're going to try and top what India have done today. They're right in it, and they still had India, that many down, for 5 wickets, right? So they've given themselves the chance, I guess, So yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously with Pant, the stats don't really tell the story, but the numbers are now massively impressive. So he's the first visiting keeper to get 200s in England, which is incredible. He's got more hundreds outside Asia than every other India Test wicketkeeper combined, which is obviously absolutely absurd. He's got as many centuries in South Africa, England, New Zealand, Australia. So what they see as the toughest conditions to bat in is Pujara and Latchman, which is also mad. We think those are two absolute titans of Indian cricket. And this is a guy who is, who also, he not only does he not seem to care if he gets to 100, he seems like he actually seems to show people that he doesn't care if he gets to 100. Like when he gets to the 90s, like, right, I've got to go really, really quickly here, unless anyone thinks I might care a bit about three figures. Like it was when he got there that he played that ridiculous falling on his back shot against Leach. And then when he was getting to 150, that's when he tried to hit 2 sixes off route. And then the second one was what got him out.
Yeah, he's just like he's too cool to be playing cricket, basically, right? Yeah. He doesn't care about the personal milestone. It doesn't really seem that way. You're right. He'll just go for it. He'll see that this is still a moment where I can score. Jack Leach is on. I might be on 90 something, but I'm still going to play how I've played him. Throughout this whole innings, right? I'm going to go for it. And that's the fascinating thing. The other thing, by the way, just watching today in general, I just want to say it's so weird to think of this as a fifth test, right? Mm-hmm. It's just look at Pant a year ago. He really struggled in this series, basically, right? Yeah. He's exactly doubled the amount of runs he scored in that series. Today he was on 146 into this innings, and he's doubled it. So he was totally out Nick last year, and it was like, oh, he can't really just keep playing like this in England. You can't do that. But then again, we're starting to think about Test cricket differently. We have been in the last few weeks, and so maybe you can come in at number 5, where he's kind of establishing himself this year. By the way, he was at 7, he was 6. This year he's at 5, and you've given him that responsibility, and that's really exciting. And he's really kind of nailing it right now. I think he's averaging something like 80 something and batting at 5. Striking it at just below 100. So the numbers in that position, by the way, are really phenomenal. But yeah, I mean, just a bemusing thing to take in today, considering it's a fifth test. The innings is all the more important because India have a great chance of winning a test series in England. That is a huge achievement, and we've kind of totally almost forgotten about it because we've forgotten about those first 4 tests. Ollie Robinson, by the way, still the leading wicket taker in this series.
Right, yeah, Yorkshire player of the series.
In England's last inning in this series, the 2 openers got half centuries. Those 2 openers were Haseeb Hameed and Rory Burns.
Yeah, so England made 7 changes from the last test of the series.
Yeah, so I found today just a really surreal, some weird experience watching the 5th test of this series.
Yeah, and we're spending a lot of time talking about Rishabh Pant, but I think that's fine. He has this thing with final tests of series, which this technically is. So I think that's where all of his 500 have come, and obviously that amazing innings at the Gabba. And he does seem, as much as it seems like he's a kind of a come off once in every few goes sort of cricketer. Firstly, his average is not that of that sort of cricketer.
Yeah.
And secondly, he does seem like when the moment calls for it, that's when he summons his best moments, basically, even though it doesn't seem like the moment phase him at all. Maybe that's what it is. I don't know. But he's just ridiculous and just so much fun to watch.
Yeah. I mean, just a small thing there. You say his average. When McCullum was talking about Crawley on Sky after the last test, and talking about he's never going to be that consistent type of cricketer, but he's going to win you a match or thing. You might have thought a few years ago, right, that would be Rishabh Pant. He'll be that type of cricketer, but he is. That average shows you the consistency, right?
Yeah.
And that's the remarkable thing about it. He's not a guy who's averaging 35. He's averaging 45 now in Test cricket. And that's really something special.
Yeah, and especially because you talk about the number 5 thing, he's not playing any differently. He's not as if he's now this responsible top order bat.
Yeah.
He's just doing the same thing, but he just is now consistent.
Yeah. But the thing about him is great as well. I guess he plays all the crazy shots, right? But he can kind of appease the purists as well. First over of the last session, Potts bowls. Potts bowls a sort of Jaffa first ball, beats outside head, and then next ball, Pant plays a beautiful cover drive. 2 balls later, plays lovely back foot punch. And everything is just like, I'm no expert on batting technique, but I imagine if I was, one of those guys who read all the manuals and says you got to play this way, you'd look at that and be like, yeah, he's nailed it. Everything you need there. He's done every the balance is perfect and all that. Obviously 20 minutes later he's on his is on his arse on the pitch because he's trying to smash Jack Leach out of Birmingham. But it doesn't matter. He does it all.
I'd love to hear someone who knows about batting technique talk about how he can play those shots where he ends up in a ridiculous position, but it does find the middle of the bat. Like how do you fall over while trying to hit a test bowler and still hit them out the middle for 4 or 6? Like there must be something technically solid going on there, even though it looks so totally unorthodox, right? You'd think there must be there's a weird sort of balance in there, or like he's so unconcerned about where he is that he's just trying to get his head over the ball, even if that means he's falling over as he's doing it or something.
Yeah,
it's absurd. I don't know what to make of it. We should talk about some of the other players. You mentioned Jadeja. I think it's a big innings for him actually, because he's had a tough time in T20 cricket leading up to this. Obviously the IPL, he was MS Dhoni's successor as CSK captain, and then MS Dhoni succeeded him as CSK captain when it kind of wasn't going very well for him. This was a smart innings, I think, in terms of he could have matched Pant stroke for stroke, but he kind of chose not to, basically.
Yeah, kind of just like the kind of experienced campaigner type innings. When you kind of look at Jadeja, and I've always thought of him as sort of like a pyrotechnics type of guy who's like kind of Pant, but Pant is on a different level in terms of what he can do with the bat.
But he's played the counter-attacking role before.
Yeah, no, he definitely has. But I thought he adapted to the role that he had to play today very brilliantly. He was kind of knocking it around, and Pant was the star, but Jadeja, such a, it's still, it surprises me that he's not got the number of test tons that. It surprised me the number of test tons he has, because I just think it's so much. He should have way more. I think he's got 2, right? Yeah, it's just such a lovely player to watch. Yeah.
And then we should talk about the England's bowlers as well, who did have India 90 at 5 and deserved it, really. I mean, there was a drop catch as well, which could have made it, or could at least have one of the batters in earlier. And Anderson and Potts, I mean, it was no surprise that they were brilliant. I mean, we know that Potts he's still new to it, but it's no surprise that he rose to this occasion. But they were so good, weren't they? Yeah.
I mean, I was speaking to Phil earlier, and we were just watching Potts, and just that thing where it's like he's part of the setup. This is Potts is bowling, he's bowling nicely, and you kind of forget that this guy made his debut a month ago. But then he did get, he got the Pant treatment. It's fine. Great bowlers have. That's okay. But yeah, knock over Kohli. A couple wickets today. So he's just part
really good celeb appeal for the
he's just part, he's just part of the kind of England team now, and it's like I almost don't remember a time where Matt Potts wasn't part of this England team now. He's just he's there, and he bowls really well, and he got hit for a few today, but whatever.
Yeah,
and Anderson, couple of Anderson wickets, edge, Crawley, slip.
That's what Anderson does.
Yeah.
Well. So India are 338 for 7 at stumps. So it will be an absolutely fascinating day tomorrow, as long as the rain stays away. Or we could see Jadeja 100. We could see India push on to 400. We could see England come out and try and sort of out hit Pant. It'll be fascinating. So make sure you join us then. Cheers. Bye.